Hello, I'm Kim Sauer at What's New in Electronics Live in the What's New in Electronics TV studio, and we're going to be discussing today a topic that is UK specific, and I've got a great panel here that are going to be looking at the challenges and the opportunities in the UK manufacturing industry. With me today is Peter Towler from OSI. I've got Dave Bennett from Mirtec and Debbie Wade from ART Art, but also here as the IPC representative. Welcome to the debate. And I'll start off just by asking you where you feel the UK manufacturing is today. If I can start off with you.
Right, okay, well, things seem to be settling down from the big offshoring that took place 15, 20 years ago. People now realise what you can and can't do offshore, and they're realising how much more should be done onshore than has previously been done. Having said that, our company has got an offshore facility, but the UK facility is 140 staff strong with 5 surface mount lines, so that gives you the idea of scale of how we operate over here. Really, it seems the market is, as you'd expect, for fast turnaround, being an attribute people look for, and also for small to medium volume repeat with a lot of flexibility. It's the flexibility of service, I think, is the clincher which keeps it, in this country rather than being allowed to go offshore. So that's, and new techniques and new technologies coming along, being put in this country is obviously a great advantage for the future.
So certainly positive signs. Is that what you say is reflective?
Yes, I think the UK, along with probably the rest of Western Europe and to a slightly lesser position, maybe the USA, are seeing a reversal of what we saw in 2000. We're starting to see more and more companies insisting on having their products made in the West rather than just running off to the cheapest manufacturing they can find. Cheap is not always best. In fact, I don't think I've ever found once where cheap was best. So I think now best is best. People are looking, and it's a positive sign. And we touched on this in an earlier conversation that one of the big driving forces is, of course, labour. And the mass rush 15 years ago, 20 years ago to go to Asia because the staffing levels were able to be very high but also very low cost. With modern manufacturing techniques and Industry 4.0 coming in the near future, let's say, it won't matter. It won't matter where the labour costs so much, because you won't need the labour so much.
Yeah, moving on from what David just said, they've realised that with offshore it's false economy, because they are realising now that they were getting a lower grade or lower quality product. So when they're bringing it into the UK, they're having to then invest more money into the rework and repair. So they've realised now spending that higher cost on a better product makes it obviously a better economy. Definitely.
Absolutely. And that's what everybody's talking about, reshoring, onshoring, reshoring, nearshoring, those sort of themes. When we look at the characteristics of the UK market, and you touched upon some of those more high-tech demands, requirements, where are we with those? So obviously the high volume is still very much in the Asian markets, but are we becoming a specialist here in the UK? Anyone?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. Yes, I think so. I think if you look at the type of products that we are seeing in the UK, a lot of those products are low to medium volumes, but quite high complexity. And Asia almost doesn't want those products anyway. They want a stabilized, easy build product that they can churn out in the hundreds of thousands. That's really what they want to do. Cell phones is a classic. In the UK, I mean, everything from guidance systems to GPS to radars, and it tends to be a far more sophisticated product. And for that, I think the not only the manufacturer themselves want the security that their product is being built in the best possible standards. I think it's also their customer. Where did this get built? And we're seeing a similar thing with automotive manufacturing. In the automotive sector, all of the critical, steering, braking, that sort of stuff, tends to be done in Europe. The lighting and that sort of stuff, that can be done in other areas. But even they are pulling more and more back. We're seeing quite a few of the large automotive manufacturers expanding across Europe again.
Yeah, because we found that when people are going offshore for a product, they'll say, so what class are you building to? So if you're talking IPC, and they were like, what class? We don't even know what you're talking about. So that's when in the UK it's very specialised. So if you said, well, if you need to build to IPC class 3, they have an understanding of class 3. They know it's military, medical, aviation, aerospace. If you're going to China, you're going to India, and you say, what class you're building to? They were like, well, what class do you want? Like, what? Do you have an understanding of what is required? They don't have an understanding of the documents. That obviously had a big problem. So as I said, when we then brought it into the UK, that it wasn't to the quality that was actually required.
I think what I'd add to that is that in terms of what do we specialise in, well, we don't specialise in anything particular like wire bonding or potting or something like that. It's the fact that we specialise in a level of service and an understanding and a flexibility to actually work with a customer, which you really can't do offshore. That's the specialism, if you like, the local need and the local benefit, if you like, of UK manufacture that we all need to play to is the flexibility to respond to changes and to also assist, with design modifications if necessary.
So that really leads nicely into what are our strengths? So service, specialization, which to me is very much a human aspect. And I suppose you deal with humans every day in your job as a trainer. But there's also the aspect of smart manufacturing and the whole automation side of things. Where do you see the balance of that? If we've got a strength as a service provider, human service that we're providing, but we also need automation to tackle the high complexity requirements of the clients. How do we balance those, and how do we maintain that competitive advantage that we've got?
Simple word for that's process control. As long as we have that adequate process control, then we can have that perfect balance. So everything is going to be repeatable, and we do need that human element to ensure that we have that adequate process control in place, to ensure we always maintain that good quality and a good customer service.
Working hand in hand with that as well, I'd say that design for manufacture, because if you can design cost out of it, then you save trips around the prototyping loop, if you like, and also you get an easier product to make that's going to be more reliable inherently, and it's going to be the test results are going to be more reliable. The whole thing is easier to manufacture, and you can only do that with a close integration with the designers. Again, that's a local need, and also need the training to be able to manufacture it.
Sure.
I think another thing is if we actually go to the manufacturers that moved east back pre-2000, and you say to them, why? The only thing that they ever come back with is cost. It was always labor. It was always, I can get an engineer for what it costs for 2 hours here in the UK. I can get him for a month. You can't anymore. The costs in China now are going through the roof. So much so that you're seeing places like Vietnam and Malaysia, well, not Malaysia now, they're in the same boat, but certainly Vietnam and Indonesia are the new low-cost manufacturing centers, and China is losing out, which is, a bit ironic when you think that their manufacturing was based on the fact that we'll do it cheaper than anybody else. But when you're doing it cheaper than anybody else, and that's all you've got, when someone's cheaper, you haven't got anything. And in the UK, yes, it hurt. We lost our manufacturing, not only our industry, many industries, but I think you're seeing now a situation where they're looking at the new modern advances. They're looking at the integration within the factories of intelligence, of real-time dynamic process control, of reporting between machines. And if you have these things, if you know which pick-and-place machine is going to run out of components, you can arrange to get the replacements ready from materials, transported to that machine on the line. And instead of having any sort of delay in your manufacturing, you turn it into a pit stop. So these things are all available. None of this is new. This is all available. It just hasn't been integrated fully yet. But more and more factories are switching on to the fact that if I actually build with intelligence, I have no benefit whatsoever in going to the other side of the world.
So it's really to our advantage that costs are going up elsewhere.
Yeah.
you mentioned on design for manufacturer, you've mentioned the developments that we're seeing in terms of making manufacturing more intelligent. So these to me are, they're existing, but they're also future developments. What is needed to be able to really turn this into reality and show to the world that actually UK manufacturing has a huge strength here? And I'm also going to touch on the current political situation that we're going through, where there's a hell of a lot of uncertainty as well. So in order to manage that uncertainty, what are we as an industry going to have to do to show to the world we're here and we're here to stay?
That's a tough one.
Actually,
Yeah.
I will jump in there. I get asked a lot, people, especially colleagues in Korea and States, Brexit, what's it mean? I said, don't know. I said, it could be really good, could be really bad, could be a bit in the middle.
Ask us again in a year and we'll tell you the answer.
Yeah, which is probably where it's going to be.
Yeah.
But, the real effect is, how bad is Brexit? Now, people say, well, it could really change the dynamics of the UK and its manufacturing and whatever. And I say, well, what about North Korea? How does Asia stand? You've now got the Chinese and the Koreans rattling sabres against each other. They've been allies for generations.
Hopefully people now will take notice of us, that if we can get through Brexit and come at the other end smiling, they're going to realise we are an industry, and the industry that's going to stay.
Yeah. Where is there a stable politics? You've got Russia clashing against US. You've got Korea threatening its old ally in China. And all we're talking about is we don't want to be in the EU anymore. When you look at the scale of things, it's probably a lot safer to manufacture in UK than it is to go offshore to one of these other places. The world is never stable. The world is always changing. Live with it. Adapt. We're a clever creature. Adapt.
Yeah. So basically, again, it's an opportunity to turn something that people are worried about into a strength. Let's get it back down to the factory floor then. Intelligence, Industry 4.0, those sort of trends that are going on. What does it require in terms of training, in terms of investment, to bring the industry forward in those areas that we're already strong in?
Commitment to start with. You need a commitment to actually do it as a culture, rather like lean manufacturing kicking off perhaps 10 years ago. You need to actually look at how to implement it in more intelligent ways, again designing back into the design for manufacture phase, to see how you can, it's about efficiency really, make the whole thing more efficient, make it much more flexible, because coming back to that again, that's what the customers are looking for, is something flexible. All things being equal with price, let's say the price is the same from Eastern Europe as it is from here in medium volume. What's the advantage? What's the differentiator? It's got to be the level of service and the efficiency and the reliability, that you're going to get what you want on the day because your manufacturer is in control of their processes.
Also maintaining the skill base. When it comes to training, there's no point just saying, we've had 15 people trained, but that was 10 years ago. Technology changes, industry changes. They need to keep up with the changing industry, maintaining training, not just IPC, basic training. Make sure people understand how to read a drawing, read a parts list. How do they understand the values of components? It's that kind of skill base that we need to maintain. And they're taking on new staff, new starters that don't have that basic knowledge.
So commitment. Final words before I wrap up. One word is the UK manufacturing industry going up, maintaining, or going down? What's your thought?
Going up.
Going up.
Going up.
Perfect. Thank you very much for participating today, and thank you very much for being here in Birmingham at What's New in Electronics Live. Thank you.